I did a poll on my Instagram story the other day. What area do you need help with the most? And here are the results. So you can see walk, 25%, wardrobe, 8%, interview slash Q&A, 17%. I thought that would be higher. Mindset, 50%. So mindset by itself, a whopping 50%, more than, well, half of you. And I don't think that should come as a huge surprise to most of us. I think all of us know that we can practice as much as we want, but sometimes pressure gets the best of us. And if you follow any level of competitive sport or even in pageantry, I follow a lot of tennis, and we actually have a label for it when it goes wrong, which is called choking. And that's to say, we're watching someone who should have won and had the opponent dead to rights and somehow found a way to lose the match. And it's not like not like that player suddenly forgot how to hit a serve or how to hit a backhand. It's something's gone wrong internally, or what we call the emotions or the emotional state. And that's what we're going to go into today. You would have seen it in pageantry. Maybe it's happened to you yourself, that we've seen a girl who we just know she performed at 80% of her potential, probably should have won the pageant. Now, pageantry obviously is a bit different to tennis. It's not objective, it's subjective, but still, we've seen girls who should have won but have frozen maybe on stage, interview, or especially Q&A when the pressure is really on. So we know intellectually it's not just about your potential and it's not just about practice, it's about being able to perform on the day. Now, a couple of observations with this. I think inherently we know how important, how important mindset is. But I don't see a lot of talk about it in the pageant world or the world in general. The most I've ever seen kind of is like positive thinking or affirmations or maybe visualizations. And they all have their place. But when you have frozen on stage in a Q&A, I don't think positive thinking or visualization or manifestation is going to help you much at that point. So we need something that's a bit more proven in the moment, at least under pressure. So that's observation number one. Observation number two is that psychology and mindset has been my wheelhouse for a lot longer than I've been doing pageantry. And I say that I'm a certified life coach, and I have worked with multiple universe title holders, national title holders, grand title holders at this stage. And I don't talk about this much because I don't like to brag about it. I really don't like it when other coaches almost take credit for their clients' results. I really hate that, and it becomes like a nothing against Pageant Planet. I've interviewed the founder of Pageant Planet, but at that time when they do the voting as to the coaching awards, it just becomes a hey, vote for me, and it's like running an election. It's just not me. But suffice to say, I don't talk much about the coaching that I do. It's more behind the scenes. But I have coached national title holders of all the biggest systems in the world, the Grand Slam, 4 or 5 Grand Slams, depending, but Universe, World, Earth, International, and Grand. I've coached title holders of all of them. I just haven't really announced it. And it always comes down, my coaching comes down to mindset and basically confidence coaching, but in a very practical way. Not just telling you, hey, you should believe in yourself, but how to get someone who really doesn't believe in themselves and really in one conversation, turning that around to where they have some actionable steps to perform to their potential. I'm not doing walk coaching, I think, thank God. I do some interview, but even the interview is more about how to perform at your best or how to speak like you know that you can speak, because you do all the practice, but again, it's no good if you freeze on the day. So those two observations really is, well, 3 observations. Number one, half of you have identified mindset as your biggest challenge. Number 2, we don't really talk about practical solutions to mindset in pageantry, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And then number 3, this has been my wheelhouse. So I've been thinking about doing a video like this for a while, and not that I didn't get around to it, but it's a rabbit hole of how deep you can go in terms of mindset, and then life coaching in general, psychology. I don't need to tell you, plays an important part in everything you do, not just pageantry, down to who you are, how healthy you're going to be, the relationship you're in, the job you're in, the amount of money you make. Psychology affects everything. But here's what we're going to do. Now that I know that, at least half of you have mindset as a huge challenge, and the other half probably have mindset as a huge challenge, you just don't know it yet. But I'm going to walk you through some very, very basic concepts. Otherwise, this video could be hours long. Basic practical way to influence your emotional state. So your mindset, so that you can perform to your potential. So this is not going to be about how to interview, what to say, or how to walk. Again, I don't do walk coaching, thank God. But this is going to be, okay, you have a certain level of potential that you've really practiced hard to develop. How can we make sure by having the correct mindset, I'd say positive mindset, but I don't like the word positive, but the correct, powerful, confident, let's use the word confident mindset, so that you can actually deliver on all that hard work you've been doing in the lead up to the pageant. Wouldn't that be a great thing? Would that be a great promise for me to make to you? You've done the hard work. Now let's make sure that you have the mindset that allows you to deliver on all that hard work when push comes to shove under pressure. And then I'll give you I'll walk you through the basic sort of psychology behind it and why it works. And then I'll give you a very practical way to do it that you can do at any point in a pageant. No one's really going to notice. And it's not me that's come up with this technique. It's actually utilized by the Navy SEALs. So you talk about something that's proven to work under pressure. These are people who might be about to take someone's life or might be about to lose their own life. And this is the technique that they use to calm themselves down under immense, extraordinary levels of pressure. Now, just for this, I'm going to switch over to a screen share and I'm going to attempt to draw this out for you. So we have our whiteboard here. Now, I am going to attempt to draw anyway. So bear with me here. First off, we're going to talk about this word, as in result. Now, what I mean by that is if I flip it back to you and say, what's the result you're after? So anytime I have a coaching conversation or a coaching client, doesn't matter what level they're at, whether they're a complete beginner or about to take on the biggest stage in the world, such as a universe international stage, I always start by saying, well, what can I do for you? Or what's the result that you're after? Now, to make it more specific to pageantry, not just I want to win a pageant, but let's say I want to go into interview and I want to interview well, right? Or let's say you're about to walk on stage in your gown. I want to deliver a knockout walk. I want to walk and exude confidence. I don't want to rush. I want to do justice to this dress that I've maybe paid hundreds or thousands of dollars for. And I want to do well at that. Why? Because then that gives me the best chance of, let's say, maybe taking out this pageant. Why that? Well, it will turn my life around, the opportunities over the scholarship pageant literally could pay for my education. So we always start with the result. And most people know the result they want. So for example, in terms of health, it's often, I want to lose weight. Now, they may not be very specific about it, but most people know about the result. The problem is most coaches and most people focus on the result. And if they don't get the result they want, they keep focusing on the next part. Now, let me draw an arrow. I don't want to get ahead of myself. This is challenging drawing this with a mouse, to say the best. But we're going to write this word here. I hope you can read this. Actually, this is probably better than my handwriting. Action. What's action? Action is how you get the result. So for example, if we take again the example of losing weight, that's the result that people are after. Well, what action do they take to get the result? It's not enough to simply want a result. You need to take some action in order to attain the result. So very often people will go on a diet or they'll take on a new workout regime. In terms of pageantry, if you wanted to do better at interview, you do interview practice. Maybe you keep up with the news and current affairs, or that's good stuff. If you want to do really well walk, the actions you're taking, you may be practicing your walk. Maybe you are getting a gown that really suits you, complements your hair color, your skin color, all of that, and the style was fitted to the pageant. This is where we begin to fall down though, because if you don't get the result that you want, most people start just focusing on taking different action. So let's say you don't win the pageant that you wanted to win. People start, in some sense, panicking and they start taking different action. And I'm sure you've seen this, maybe you've experienced this. It doesn't seem to matter what action you take, you never seem to get the result that you want. Now, of course, pageantry is subjective, so there's something to be said for that. But even when it comes to something that's more objective, like competitive sport, again, like with tennis, people don't win the tournament. And then you see them, these athletes, go onto the practice court and they think the action they should take is go and hit more balls, hit more backhand, hit more forehand, hit the gym more. And That's all well intentioned and it's all well and good. And you do need to work hard, you need to take action. But a couple of things. Number one, they still don't win a tournament. And number two, as soon as they go on the practice court, I don't know if you've actually seen professional athletes when they're practicing next to one another, and you could have the 1,000th ranked tennis player in the world practicing next to the number one. And if you blurred out the faces, you just watched the mechanics of what they do, you wouldn't be able to tell who's number one and number 1,000. And that's not really an exaggeration at all. The mechanics, when you get onto the professional level in tennis or any sport, most people know how to hit the ball. They're already in the top 1%, let's say, of the best athletes in the world. So they're not losing because they can't hit a backhand. Sometimes that's the case. But there's something else missing in this equation, right? It's not just taking more action. So my question for you is, what affects this action? If we want a certain result and we're not getting the result we want, and we know that actions lead us to the result, then what's the precursor to the action? And this is the missing component. This is the mindset part. And I'm going to call it state, although with my Australian accent, maybe state. State. Now, I don't mean Oklahoma or New South Wales or, any of those things. I mean the emotional state that you're in. Now, let me link this up for you, okay? So you're going to perform on the biggest pageant stage in the world. Imagine you're about to walk out on the Miss USA or the Miss Universe international stage, and you have thousands, tens of thousands, maybe millions of eyes on you. You want to do really well. That's the result you're after. What are the actions that you've taken? You've practiced, you've prepared, you've gotten the best gown, you've gotten the best makeup, hair, etc., etc., etc. And obviously now you're going to need to walk. That's the action that you're going to take. But what happens if before you walk on that stage, you would describe your state as emotionally panicked or having a massive anxiety attack or panic attack? What's going to happen with the actions that you're able to take? And if I say okay, your potential in terms of 10 out of 10, right? And you want to perform at 100% of your potential, 10 out of 10. What happens if your state out of 10 is at a 2? You're about to walk out on the biggest stage in the world, the biggest moment of your life, and your nervous system is interpreting it as literally life or death. That's why you get so worked up about it, even though it's not life or death. And you've done all the prep and you actually could win. You have the potential to win. We're not saying that you don't have the potential. You have the potential to win. But you go out there, your potential is a 10 out of 10, but your state's a 1 out of 10, or a 2 out of 10, or a negative 10 out of 10. You're distracted. You're not confident. Everything is clammy. Everything's cold. Everything's going fuzzy. And you suddenly begin to not be able to breathe and you have a panic attack. You know it doesn't matter how much potential you have. In that emotional state or that mindset, I'm going to use those terms interchangeably. So when I say state, I'm talking about your mindset, your emotional state. But in that emotional state of what we might call panic, 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 in terms of your potential, you're not going to be able to take the actions that you want. And so you're not going to get the result that you want. Does that make sense? So because you're not in the state that you need to be in, the emotional state that you need to be in, maybe you say you need to be at a 10 out of 10, or maybe it's a universe that you need to be at 100 out of 10, or you could label it, I need to feel confident. I need to feel like a goddess. I feel like I need to slay. Whatever the word is, whatever gets you, whatever you think of in terms of being at the correct state. If you are not at a 10 out of 10 or whatever you need to be, you're not going to take the action, no matter how much you've practiced. And that's what a panic attack or choking, or when you see on the pageant stage or on Q&A and you see a girl who you know could answer that question. They might have even answered that very same question flawlessly in a practice session. But because in the practice session, their state would probably be described as, maybe a 7 or 8 out of 10, they were really relaxed, having a good day. So of course, they were able to access their potential, and then they got the result that they wanted. But here's you having the biggest panic attack of your life before the biggest moment of your life, and you're not going to perform near to your potential. Then the problem is Most coaches, well-intentioned as they are, say, "Oh, we need to practice more, right? We need to take more action. We're gonna walk more. We're gonna do more interview, and next time you're gonna do much, much better." Sometimes. But why is it sometimes? Because maybe next time you go onto the stage, maybe your state is a little bit better. Because you know you've been here before. You know you flopped terribly before, can't really go worse. So maybe rather than at a 1 or 2 out of 10 for your state, now you're at a 5, 6. Maybe you go like, well, I screwed up horribly last time. You completely relax, and now you're at a 10 out of 10. You access your full potential, which may be more now that you've practiced, and then you finally get the result that you want. And pageantry would be doing your best. We can't guarantee the win, obviously. If you ever work with a coach who guarantees a win, run for your life. So this is the precursor to what I need you to know, because then we're going to go into how to actually affect your state with the understanding that if you can master your state, you're going to be able to take the action that you want. So access your full potential, and then you'll give yourself the best chance of getting the result that you want. Now, am I able to move this thing along? That's the question. Okay, I've worked out how to use Canva whiteboard. This is a newer technology for me. There you go. Okay, so now the question is, how do we actually affect state? So you've got state, action, result. You go, Adrian, okay, great, I got it. How does this, I can see how that works. How do I actually affect my state? Now, there are 3 components to affecting your state. Let us change the color to, let's go to a blue. Okay, now in order, here's the first one, the biggest one. There are 3 ways to affect your state. This is going to be difficult, challenging. This is challenging my state. Not your physio, so that could help, your physiology. So this links into your state. Now, what's physiology? Physiology is just a fancy word for how you use your body. How are you breathing, for example? Are you breathing full or are you breathing shallow? Where are your shoulders? Are your shoulders slumped forward or are they back? Where's your head? Is your head down? Is your head up? Are you holding any tension in your body? Do you have any chronic pain in your body? So physiology is a fancy word for how am I using my body? Now, to understand the power of this, because it's a concept that by itself I could go for hours on how powerful it is. Have you ever seen a person and known immediately that they were sad or depressed or that they were excited or happy? And even have you seen someone from the back, so you haven't even seen their face, that you know they're excited, or you know they're angry, or you know that they're depressed? Now, how did you know that even if you don't see their face? I mean, face makes it easier. And that is because you are a practical psychologist. You know how to read someone's physiology. We'll call it body language. You know, for example, if I ask you to describe someone who's depressed, where's their head? Is it going to be up or is it going to be down? It's probably going to be down. Where's their breath? Are they taking deep breaths or is it kind of shallow and hunched over? No, it's probably shallow and hunched over. Where are their shoulders if they're depressed? Are they going to be nice and back or are they going to be hunched forward and slumped? Probably hunched forward and slumped. How much tension is there going to be in their body? Or they're going to be really sort of limp? Well, they're probably going to be limp and they're probably looking down, right? They're not looking up, they're looking down. How do you know this? Because you're a practical psychologist. You've seen depression before and you know the physiology of depression. Now, to switch this around, if you are feeling not so great, the fastest, easiest, and most effective way to radically change how you're feeling is a radical change in your physiology. You don't think about it, you don't talk about it, you radically change your physiology. I'll give you a couple of examples that you could do in your everyday life. Number 1, next time you're feeling not so great, stand up, put your hands up, and just start screaming at the top of your lungs and wake yourself up. That's a silly one, but like let's say you're lying in bed and you're really sleepy. If you jump up and start doing jumping jacks, so you move your body, you're suddenly going to feel more awake because you're using your physiology in a different way to when you were lying down. You'll start taking deep breaths, which a lot of us don't breathe properly. That's why we feel that mind fog or feel tired all the time or stressed, because when you're stressed, you don't breathe deep. Another way of changing your physiology, which I just did, by the way, if you don't like the idea of screaming around like a lunatic, go take a cold shower. If that doesn't wake up your physiology, I don't know what will. And you've seen this with cold baths and cold ice water challenges and all that. And part of it is the health benefits of it. I don't know how much have been researched, but if you've ever seen or you've jumped into a bath, a bath of ice cold water, you will experience a sudden and radical change in your physiology. And because of that, you will experience a sudden and radical change in your state. And I guarantee you're going to feel more motivated when you jump out of that ice water. No positive thinking required. So does that make sense? Physiology. And a pageant example is if you see someone walking and you can see that someone's confident, or you can see someone else is walking and you can tell that they're nervous. So it's physiology first. And if you are not happy with your state, let's say you're feeling tight, adopt a different physiology. Change your physiology. Put your shoulders back, breathe deep, start strutting around, whatever it is you need to do. You could even put your hands on your hips and pretend you're a superhero, for God's sake. There was actually a study done on that. I can't remember where it was, but they showed that the levels of testosterone in men and women both increased just by, I think it was 2 or 3 minutes of just standing like a superhero, pretending you have a cape flowing behind your back and putting a big, giant smile on their face. And what does testosterone do? It makes us more able to tackle challenges, which is what we're talking about. When you're under pressure, you are perceiving a challenge. So physiology first. I went into a bit more depth about that one because that's the most important one. So I'll go through the second and the third one a bit more quickly. Focus. Where focus goes, energy flows. Now, I'll break this down. If you're about to walk onto the biggest stage of your life, there are 3 questions with focus. What am I going to focus on? What does that mean? And what am I going to do about it? So what am I going to focus on? What does that mean? And what am I going to do about it? Now, if your focus is on, wow, there are so many people out there, right? I can see so many, there's hundreds of thousands of people in the stadium. Then what does that mean? Well, that means there's all these people out there judging me, waiting for me to fall on my face because they're not here for me. I don't have anyone come to this pageant. These people must all be here to watch me fail, and they'll be happy if I do. And then what am I going to do about it? Well, I'm going to fall flat on my face. Not consciously, obviously, but if you're focused on how many people there are in the audience, and you make what that means to you is they're all here cheering for someone else. No one wants me to succeed. That is going to change the way you feel, your emotional state, isn't it? So those 3 questions at any time, what am I going to focus on? What does that mean? And what am I going to do about it? You are asking yourself subconsciously all the time, whether you're aware of it or not. You take someone in the exact same position. So about to walk on the biggest stage of their life. What are they focused on? Taking one step at a time. So that's what they're focusing on. What does that mean? Well, each step means that I am one step closer to my goal and that I get to show off to the world how hard I've been working. Okay, so I'm focused on one step at a time. What does that mean? With each step, I'm getting stronger and stronger. With each step, I'm getting better and better. So what am I going to do about it? Well, I'm probably at least going to make it to the end of the stage successfully. So focus matters. What you're focusing on matters. You can at any moment focus on what's going right or what's going wrong. At any moment, you've seen this on social media. At any moment, we could focus on all the horrible things that are going on in the world, all the terrible stuff, which is what the news outlets tend to want us to look at because that gets eyeballs. But you could equally focus on all the amazing things that are happening. So the decision as to what you focus on will definitely impact your state. Now, the third one, and together we call this a triad, okay? The triad that affects our state. And triad because there are 3. The third one is language. Now, by this, I don't mean do you speak English, Spanish, Mandarin, whatever. I mean the words that you say have real meaning, a real impact on your psychology. And this could even be self-talk. If you're saying, well, Adrian, I don't talk to anyone before I'm going on stage, it's the way that you talk to yourself is equally as powerful, probably more so, because when you're speaking in your head, it can get out of control and can ramp up at a speed and rapidity that you wouldn't be able to converse with someone. And the voice in our head often goes unchallenged. So the words that you say, and I'll give you a classic example of this. Before you go on stage, is it likely that your heart rate is going to start beating a bit faster? That your emotions are going to be, let's say, elevated? Of course. That's called being human. But at that moment, you get to label this feeling. Now, are you going to label this feeling as I am nervous, or are you going to label it as I'm excited? Are you going to label it as, oh my God, I'm having a panic attack? Or are you going to take that same emotion and go, I know I'm ready. Let's do this. Now, as silly as that sounds, we live out the language. If your decision about the energy that you're feeling is that you're having a panic attack, you can't go out and perform at your best. You can't be confident because in your head there'll be a conflict. You just said you decided you're having a panic attack. Well, someone who's having a panic attack is not going to feel confident. So you've immediately forbidden yourself from feeling confident or blocked yourself from feeling confident. On the other hand, if you tell yourself, even if you maybe don't 100% believe it, but wouldn't it be better if you 50% believed, you know what, I got this buzz, I'm feeling like my heart racing, I'm ready, let's do this, let's get a bit excited. Isn't that preferable to saying, oh my God, I'm having a panic attack? Now, I don't want to have a go at anyone who has panic attacks and, psychological diagnoses completely to one side. I am not a mental health care professional at all, but I'm saying the language that you use is extremely powerful. Is that annoying kid who's crying on the train, is he misbehaving, or is he sad and upset because he just lost his mother? So all these languages, the label that you use. So you could say that I am chronically depressed, or you can say I just had not such a good day. So that's the power of language to influence your state. Now, as I said, these three together are called the triad, and we're going to wrap it up there. Okay? I got one more thing to show you, which is actually a shortcut as to how to use all this, because I know it's intellectual, and I know this video has been a bit longer than I intended, but as I said, it's a bit involved. Mindset, and this is why not many people talk about it or can coach about it, because it is knowledge you need to know other than think and hope for the best. Because how well does that work? Not so good sometimes, a lot of the time, especially under pressure. So just a quick recap, then I'll give you the Navy SEAL technique for all of this. So you want a certain result. We know that to get a result, you need to take an action. That's common sense. But maybe what you didn't know until today is that the state that you're in, the emotional state or the mindset that you're in, will directly influence what action you are willing to take or even able to take. And again, you can think of that as how much of your potential are you actually able to access. You could, label your state out of 10. 10 out of 10 is your best state, your most powerful, confident state. 0 out of 10 is like you're dead, which is not so good. Or you could give different labels like I want to feel confident. I want to feel like I'm ready to kick butt and take names. And you don't want to feel like nervous or clammy or, anxiety ridden or something like that. So we've worked out, I've shown you that what we really need to do in mindset is find a way to affect our state. And in an emotional state of unstoppable, you're probably going to be able to access most of your potential, and then you're more likely to get the result that you want. Not guaranteed, but most likely. You give yourself the best chance possible. And not everyone has the same potential, by the way. But by becoming masters of our state, we can give ourselves the best chance of maximizing on our potential. Does that make sense? And then we've gone quickly over the triad, the 3 ways in which you can affect your state. Remember physiology first. Remember that analogy I told you about jumping in an ice cold shower. If you haven't done that, try that. I love a coffee in the morning, but I'll tell you nothing wakes you up and makes you feel more alert and motivated than not just a cold shower. Although if you jump under the shower and turn the cold water on, it does feel very jolting in a good way. But if you have a hot shower first and then you turn the hot water off and then you go cold, man, that'll wake you up. Okay, that'll put hair on your chest, so to speak. But the triad, the physiology, the focus. Remember the 3 questions of focus. What am I going to focus on? What does that mean? And what am I going to do about it? So 2 people in exactly the same position, same situation, have a radically different focus, and then they feel a radically different way. And then thirdly, language. Not just how you talk to other people, but the labels that you have for yourself during your self-talk. Again, am I excited or am I having a panic attack? Now, let me take off the screen share just for this ending part. Now, there is something that I want you to look up, and it's called box breathing. Box as in a box, like my cat goes in. Box breathing. Now, Navy SEALs use this. I looked it up on AI just to give me. I do everything on AI now. So, box breathing is used by the U.S. Navy SEALs to help manage stress in high-pressure situations, otherwise known as life or death situations. Here's what it is. It's 4 parts. Super simple. You can do it with me now. Okay, we're going to do a certain type of breathing. We're going to inhale for a count of 4. We're going to hold it for a count of 4. We're going to exhale through the mouth for a count of 4. And then we're going to hold for another count of 4. So that's why it's called box, because think of it in terms of a box. So inhale through the nose, hold, exhale through the mouth, and then hold again. I'm just going to make sure, it's through the nose and out through the mouth. Okay, so let's try this. Okay, so on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, inhale. So we're 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Exhale 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Now, obviously, you don't just do that once, but actually, even doing that once, as best as I could whilst talking, it's cleared my head a little bit. Now, if you imagine that you do this continually before you're about to walk on stage, or next time you're feeling a bit panicked, or you're having a bit of anxiety, or even if you're on the other side and you're feeling a bit low, feeling a bit sad, just clear your mind using this box breathing. Again, the Navy SEALs use it as a way of calming themselves down under immense stress and pressure, the greatest stress and pressure you can imagine. Life or death. Someone's trying to kill you, so you got to kill them, otherwise you're dead. So inhale through the nose for 4, hold for 4, exhale through the mouth for 4, and then hold for 4. That's what box breathing is. And let me ask you, if the Navy SEALs have been using this in life or death situations, is there a chance, just a chance, not a guarantee, no guarantees in life, but is there a chance that it could work before you go and walk on a pageant stage, or before you do an interview, or before whatever it is that makes you nervous, asking someone out on a date? Do a bit of box breathing. I don't know how much you want to do, but let's say you take 5 minutes. It can't hurt. You're about to have a panic attack as it is. Anything is probably preferable to a panic attack. But let me wrap up with this. Why does that work? Now, I'm sure there are smarter psychologists, people who know more about psychology than I do, who can give you a more in-depth understanding as to why that works. But if I just bring you back to our screen share for a sec, okay? What's happening with the physiology, focus, and language as we are doing box breathing? Well, our physiology is changing because we're actually having to take deep, controlled breaths. Deep because we're inhaling for 4, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, and holding for 4. So we're controlling our breath. So we're affecting our physiology. Probably as you're doing this also, you'll notice that you sit up a bit more upright or stand a bit more upright, because in order to breathe like that, you can't really be hunched over. So we've changed our physiology, number 1. What's happened to our focus? Well, you're probably focusing on your breath rather than focusing on what's stressing you out or what's about to go catastrophically wrong. You're just focusing on breathing. Maybe for you, actually breathing like this takes some focus because you're not used to breathing like this. You've never been conscious of your breathing. So we've taken control of our focus, and we're focused on something that we can control. What a concept. And then what's happened to our language? Well, I don't know about you, but you can't talk 2 things at the same time. If I'm saying in my head 1, 2, 3, 4, or if I'm saying out loud, I can't tell myself what a hopeless basket case I am at the same time that I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4. So all that negative self-talk that maybe you sometimes happens to you. I'm not going to say you're guilty of it, but we're all guilty of it at times. But it's not really under our control, it feels like. So rather than trying to turn the self-talk off, I'm saying just turn the self-talk to 1, 2, 3, 4, and do it in your head. And because you're thinking about it in your head, it's a lot harder to do the self-talk because your self-talk is directed at going 1, 2, 3, 4. So what's happened? We've radically probably changed our physiology. We're focusing on deep breathing and stood upright or sat upright. We've changed our focus onto our breathing and on our counting. And our language has been replaced by a very basic pattern of 1, 2, 3, 4. No room for self talk, negative self talk. So what happens? Oh, we now enter a state known as calm, alert, and ready. And for the Navy SEALs, even under immense pressure. So that's what I want to leave you with. If it works for them in life or death situations, and I didn't come up with it, this is what they use. You can look it up, box breathing, look it up on AI, look it up on Google, whatever you want to do. If they're using it under that level of immense pressure, and given that what I've shown you in terms of state, action, result, and then the triad of physiology, focus, and language, and you can see how the box breathing takes control of the triad, much more so than thinking positive, then is there a chance that this could work for you? Just taking 30 seconds before you walk on stage, 30 seconds before you walk in the interview, 30 seconds before you say hello to your partner when you've had a stressful day. Just in for 4, hold, out for 4, hold. Do that 3 times, 5 times, 10 times. Even doing it once, I can feel a change in the way I'm feeling because of all that air, that oxygen that's coming in. And if it works for the Navy SEALs, it's probably going to have some effect for you. So if you stuck with me to the end of this video, I hope you got value from it. I hope you've achieved a different level of understanding, maybe in terms of mindset and practical psychology, not just talking about it, but actually how you can make a practical difference to your life and hopefully fulfill on more of your potential. Because I see all the time people have, and I'm sure you've seen this, and maybe you fit into this case, where you know you have all this potential, but you're just not fulfilling on it, not because you're lazy, but just because something's been holding you back, whether it's getting nervous, whether it's having a panic attack, or whether it's even getting motivated. So I've shown you state, action, result, how important that chain is, and to focus on the state. Obviously, action is important, but if you get the state right, if we master our state, we give ourselves the best chance of taking the actions that we know we need to take and therefore getting the result that we want. And how do we master state? Physiology, focus, language. And like any other skill, you get better with it as you practice. And then I've given you that shortcut of box breathing so that this is not just an intellectual, oh, I understand this, this is interesting, and then you have another panic attack. Box breathing. By the way, if you watch this far and you want a session, I wasn't going to put that in. If you want a session with me, I'm available for mindset coaching. Just send me a message, email, or go to the website, thepageantproject.com. But the other thing I will say is I would love to hear from you if you have any techniques that are similar to the box breathing, ways that kind of can hijack that triad in order to make you feel better, even when when you're under immense stress. I'm not so much interested in things that work when you're feeling great anyway. That's why, in terms, visualization is great. You see your goal so you can go for it. But the whole manifestation thing, it's interesting to set a destination. But when you're having a panic attack on stage, as some of my clients have had, me telling them to manifest more ain't gonna work so well. And I think you get that. Even if you're a massive fan of The Secret and things like that, you will know that there comes a time, push comes to shove, that you need to deliver right now. And now is not the time for manifesting. You might have manifested all sorts of things, maybe even getting to the stage you had to manifest. But push comes to shove, under pressure, we need to take control of our state. So let me know any questions. Let me know if you want a session. And if you have any techniques that have worked for you under pressure, like I've talked about with the box breathing and the Navy SEALs, please let me know below, because I'd love to sort of add to my toolkit. I love the box breathing just because it can be done at any time and no one even knows that you're doing it. There are other ways, obviously, to get yourself hyped up, like jumping around and singing and dancing like a lunatic. That's probably not going to go so well before you walk out on the universe stage or whatever stage you're about to walk on. It might give other people something to laugh at and you might distract your competition, which might be a good thing. But if you want something that you can do at any time without anyone even knowing, you could be sitting right next to them and you're going to breathe anyway. You might as well breathe in a way that helps master your state. See you next time.